WorldCom. A giant telecom industry was striding confidently on Wall Street. From the outside, it seemed unstoppable, gobbling up smaller companies, expanding at lightning speed, and making its CEO, Bernie Ebbers, a modern-day business hero. But what no one knew was that this empire was built on a foundation of smoke and mirrors. Unknown to the people's knowledge, it was a well-played game of financial trickery that would soon unravel in spectacular fashion. It all started small, like most great scams do, just a little tweaking of the numbers. But as with any snowball rolling downhill, it quickly grew out of control. Investors were dazzled by WorldCom's growth, analysts showered it with praise, and stock prices soared. Pulling an approximately $11 billion fraud in inflated earnings is a huge deal. But it was all done so smartly that nobody could get a whim for years. But how did this carefully crafted illusion go from booming to busted? And what role did Bernie Ebbers, the man who didn't know how to send an email, play in one of the biggest corporate frauds in history? The illusion of success. Fake it till you break it. This phrase has become a classic piece of advice taken by all scammers that we have covered so far in our videos. Following the legacy of criminals in history, Ebbers did the same. When we analyze the success of WorldCom in 1990s, it was nothing short of meteoric. In a few short years, it went from a small Mississippi long-distance provider to one of the largest telecom giants on the planet. Under the leadership of Bernie Ebbers, the company was on an acquisition spree. It was gobbling up all rivals at a speed that it seemed no one could keep up, not even Ebbers himself. You don't believe it? In one particularly bizarre incident during the acquisition of a smaller telecom company, Bernie was asked a technical question about the business.
His response? A puzzled look and a quick change of subject. He did not know much about the nuts and bolts of telecoms, but that didn't seem to matter. Deals were getting signed faster than anyone could process them. At one point, WorldCom's acquisitions were happening so quickly that in a meeting, one executive jokingly asked if they had purchased a company that very morning. No one was sure if he was serious or not. But behind the shiny facade of growth and success, something was off. WorldCom's rapid rise wasn't just the result of savvy business strategy. Rumors swirled about questionable accounting practices, and expenses were being shifted around like puzzle pieces. While investors marveled at the company's public image and stock price, behind the scenes, shady dealings and financial sleight of hand were becoming the glue that held the empire together. The faster WorldCom grew, the more tangled its financial web became, a web that would trap everyone along. While this was going, there's entry of another hero in our story. Meet Scott Sullivan, the WorldCom's chief financial officer. While Bernie Ebbers took the responsibility of charming the investors, Sullivan the numbers guy, the one who made the magic happen. Sullivan had a knack for turning financial chaos into order, a skill so refined that some joked he could probably make his own grocery bills look like a profit sheet. With his calm demeanor and sharp mind, Sullivan kept the engine of WorldCom running smoothly, even as the company expanded at breakneck speed. But Sullivan wasn't just balancing the books, he was cooking them. He began manipulating the numbers, cleverly disguising billions of dollars in expenses as profits. His methods were so complex that even seasoned Wall Street analysts didn't catch on. A question arises: how on earth he was pulling this off without raising any eyebrows? Well, it was being done by moving costs into capital accounts. WorldCom's expenses simply vanished, making the company appear far more profitable than it actually was. The financial reports, scrubbed clean by Sullivan's sleight of hand, looked pristine on the surface. WorldCom's financial manipulation was simple yet audacious. Imagine hiding billions of dollars like you'd hide clutter before guests arrive, by shoving everything under the metaphorical couch. Scott Sullivan was tucking massive expenses into the company's capital accounts, turning costs that should have weighed down profits into invisible assets. It was a numbers game that seemed far too outrageous to work, yet it did. For years, it seemed as if auditors were asleep or WorldCom had donned an invisibility cloak that hid its financial skeletons in plain sight. The rise of the shadows. As the WorldCom empire grew,
so did the whispers. That is one of the reasons we have the star entry of Cynthia Cooper, the company's internal auditor. She was the one who started noticing things others had conveniently overlooked or chose to do so. One might never know. While executives were riding the success boat with great enthusiasm, Cooper was playing the role of a detective in a slapstick mystery, raising red flag that no one wanted to see. It was a wonderful picture. Cynthia in a boardroom full of suits, pointing out the glaring issues with the numbers, only to be met with polite nods and awkward silences. It was as if she were trying to convince people that the sun rises in the east while everyone else insisted it came from the west. If you think Cooper was going to let this go, you are wrong. She proved to be a woman of steel. With each passing quarter, she grew more suspicious and delved deeper into the company's financials, and what she uncovered was startling. Billions of dollars in expenses being disguised as assets. As expected, despite the mounting evidence, Cooper faced a wall of resistance. No one wanted to believe that the golden goose was laying rotten eggs. The tension mounted as Cooper's investigation gained momentum. She knew something was horribly wrong, but convincing others was proving to be a Herculean task. Why wasn't anyone listening? Was it denial, complacency, or something more sinister? With each discovery, the noose around WorldCom tightened, but it remained to be seen if anyone would act before it was too late. As WorldCom's words were shaking behind the scenes, Sullivan and Ebbers were in full panic mode. They were frantically making attempts to cover the widened cracks. It was like watching cartoon characters trying to fix a leaky dam with their fingers, each new hole only making matters worse. However, to the outside world, everything looked perfect. Investors were still riding the wave of WorldCom's success, unaware of the ticking time bomb beneath the surface. Sullivan was running out of tricks, and even Ebbers, ever the optimist, could see the storm clouds gathering. They both knew the collapse was inevitable, but they were scrambling to delay the fallout for as long as possible.